I know we're all still reveling in the glow of the win over LSU, but it's also time to talk a little bit of basketball as it starts tonight.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Going to tell you about LinkedIn in just a little bit. But right now, Jimmy, I think we're going to take a little curveball from football season as basketball gets started tonight. Alabama will take on Morehead State. Looking forward to this. Was hoping to have Brian passing on, but he's a little preoccupied. As he told me, look, opening night is really, really hectic for him. He's trying to get prepared. So we hope to have him on tomorrow to sort of give a preview and a review since we'll have a game behind us. Very excited about that. Really excited about this team, Jimmy. Love the schedule, love the roster. We've talked about it all before, but now that it's here, it feels even more special.
I am so excited. I will be going tonight. Very excited about, well, it's all the new guys, right? I mean, 3 guys really back, 4 if you count Cosby, but you can't really count him. He didn't play a lot last year. So really 3 guys back, Rylan Griffin, Mark Sears, Nick Pringle. Excited to see each of them hopefully improved. A better Griffin, a better Sears, a better Pringle. But what I'm really excited about is 9 new players that I've never seen play basketball for Alabama. Aaron Estrada, Grant Nelson. I expect both of them to play significant roles as transfers. You are hearing unbelievably great things about freshman Jaron Stevenson, who may be in the starting lineup. Freshman Sam Walters has been extremely impressive. I think those 2, I'm going to go ahead and say right now, I mean, they're going to be very significant players this year, even though they're both freshmen. Jaron drawing comparisons to Noah Clowney and Sam Walters. We just haven't had anything like him in the past. I guess the player he's most similar to might be Grant Nelson, who we haven't even seen yet. So just excited to see all these new guys, Grant Nelson. And, man, just going to be a fun year. And with Nate Oates, right? So with Nate Oates, there's going to be expectations. Can Alabama win the SEC? Can Alabama get to the NCAAs and make a run? They seem like reasonable goals based on the talent on this roster.
I definitely think so. Here's something that, look, I want to get into Jaron Stevenson in just a second, but here's something that really bothers me. You keep seeing all of these rankings of coaches in the SEC. And it's funny, most of them have John Calipari at the top. Okay. I mean, he does have a national championship. He has won several SEC and SEC tournament championships. I could also argue he's underachieved relative to his competition, relative to his expectations, relative to his talent on the roster. But okay, if you want to say John Calipari is the best, okay. Then most people have either Eric Musselman first or second. And I'm like, look, I like Eric Musselman. I think he's a good coach. I really do. And he has gone to the Elite Eight a few times. He hadn't won the SEC. I don't think he's won the SEC tournament yet. And, I talked with an Arkansas fan recently at a party. He and I always talk about, he's of course bigger on basketball than football. So he and I talk basketball a lot, and he's always like, yeah, the only thing that matters is March. I'm really trying. You and I are on a one podcast mission to make sure people don't do that anymore. It's not right that the SEC championship and SEC tournament championship don't mean anything. It sucks that it doesn't, but it kind of doesn't. And I think that we need to change that narrative starting now. Kramer
yeah, it's not right. And it's harder. I mean, different sport, but my Braves had their best team in Major League Baseball over 162 games, and then had a bad series with the Phillies, and that overshadows what they accomplished over 162 Major League Baseball games. And the regular basketball's the same way. I worry March is. I get that it is. We both get. We're not arguing that March isn't a thing, but man, you achieve so much in November, December, January, and February too. And I don't know. I mean, you know, it's a tough thing because I get that Musselman has had better Marches than Nate Oates, but Nate Oates has had better November, December's, January's, and February's. I'm not sure if forced to pick which one. I'm not sure which direction I would go in. I know March is the fewer games. It seems to me that November through February is harder, but March is so big. So, what would be great, Luke? Why don't we win the SEC and get to the Final Four? Let's do that, and then we'll come back and look.
If he does that, if Nate Oates gets to a Final Four, you watch the narrative on him change immediately, which is kind of funny because he's done really, really well. Nate Oates, I mean, I loved Wimp Sanderson. I loved Wimp Sanderson. I CM Newton a little bit before my time, but okay, I think CM Newton was a great coach. Nate Oates is going to be the best coach in Alabama history.
Oh, I agree, a million %. And I say that as somebody like Luke that grew up in the Wimp Sanderson era. I went to school during the Wimp Sanderson era. I grew up here. Wimp was sort of the basketball deity, and I have all the respect in the world for Wimp. Nate's going to accomplish more things.
There's no doubt. Now, I wanted to go to Jaron Stephen just for a second. Now, we're running out of time on this first segment, so I won't get into everybody, but I'm like you. I'm really excited to see him. Here's the thing that's really interesting about Jaron Stevenson. He reclassified. I don't think a lot of people know that. And ESPN had him as the #1 power forward in this class, which is the class, in this upcoming signing class. But he reclassified. So I think people are sleeping on him a little bit. He was going to be the #1 power forward in 2024. We ended up being the overall 41 player in 2023. And I think part of that is just because of youth. I think he's going to have a nice game, a great career. And by career, it may only be one season at Alabama. I'm like you. I'm super excited to see what kind of lineup we put on the floor. That you take a look at this roster, and there are a lot of guys that, again, we know them, and so maybe this isn't a fair way to put it, but we know them because we're so big into recruiting and we follow basketball probably more than a lot of regular football-only gumps. And but you see names like Chris Parker, you see names like Davin Cosby, Mohamed Wagi. I believe that's how you say it. Am I saying that right?
I think it's Wagi, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it's Wagi.
You see, obviously, Stevenson, Sam Walters. And you're like, okay, who's not playing? Because Nick Pringle's going to get some minutes. We need him to get minutes. I mean, he's sort of going to be great on the defensive end. Reitzel's going to get minutes. Diabute, I mean, I know he's injured right now, but he'll eventually get some minutes. Grant Nelson and Aaron Estrada, we know they're getting minutes. We know Mark Sears is getting minutes, and Rylan Griffin. So it's going to be interesting to see how we navigate this roster and how it all comes to fruition, because, I mean, I think these first few games are going to be about figuring out your best team chemistry.
Yeah, you got to find a rotation, and that's what these first games. Morehead State's actually pretty good. Did some work on them this morning. They won their regular season league title a year ago. They won 22 games. They did not make the NCAA tournament because they were upset in their conference tournament. But so they go to the NIT because they were Ohio Valley regular season champs. They beat the #1 seed in the NIT, Clemson. I didn't know that. I mean, this is all news to me. So Morehead at 22 wins, an NIT win over Clemson, and then they go sign the best NAIA player in the country out of the portal. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, which is great. You want it to be a little bit of a challenge. How good does it do you if you beat somebody 105-30? You need it to be a little bit of a challenge. So that'll be great. As far as the rotation goes, I don't know. I see 8 guys as significant players early. I think Estrada and Sears will be in the backcourt. I think Nelson, Pringle, and Jaron Stevenson will sort of be – Rylan Griffin at small forward, Pringle and Grant Nelson in the front court starting out. But then off the bench, Jaron Stevenson, Sam Walters, Latrell Reitzel. So I think those will be the kind of the first 3 guys off the bench. So that'll be 8. And I think those will be the 8. And then as the season progresses, then you see Diabute, then you see Cosby, then you see Parker and Wagi. I think those will kind of be the last 4. but all 12, as Luke pointed out, I think all 12 will contribute this year. All 12. I would just kind of look for those first 8 to be the significant players right off the bus.
All right, Jimmy, much like Nate Oates, who is my game changer. He has changed everything about Alabama basketball. Now is your game changer of the week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like Nate Oates, Athletic Brewing Company has changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. I'm telling you, these things are delicious. They come out with all these cool, funky flavors, and they send us these samples. And I've ordered some. I mean, I love them. I mean, they're absolutely delicious. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, full flavor, and well-crafted, just like a full-strength beer. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning and beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. They brew over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, golden, sours, and more. They're constantly releasing limited edition experimental styles to add to their variety. They're fit for all times. No hangovers ever. That's music to your ears. It's got to be. You can find Athletic Brewing Company non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON for 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions apply. Conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Man, I'm sorry if I keep messing with my nose and you keep hearing it in the background. When I was, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was at Alabama, I was just like I am now, fidgety, hyper. I was an SAE. That if you know anything about the fraternities, then you know where I'm going here. I went to a private school in Birmingham, private boarding school, and so. You know, I gave off vibes of somebody who might dabble in some nefariousness. But as I've said many times, I've never even smoked a doobie in my life. And but what I'm getting to is my nose.
Do they call them doobies anymore? What are you, 80?
That's how little I know about it.
That's what they called them in World War II.
That's how little I know about it. I haven't even had one for medicinal purposes yet. But anyway, my nose also constantly bled for no reason. I mean, it was just like a thing. And so I would be taking a test, and like I would look up for a second, I'd look back down, and my whole test would be covered in blood, nose blood, which I assume is regular blood. And so people thought I was on every kind of street drug imaginable. I mean,
nose drugs.
A lot of nose drugs. But, you know, the thing was
whiskey.
People had no idea how little I know about drugs, period. So
obviously, Mr. Doobie.
They call me Luke Doobie Robinson. Doobie Mute Robinson.
He's a doobie bro.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about injuries and recruiting. Jimmy, I know Jalen Key went out with an injury. Can you give us an update there? And also, we had some Deontay Lawson issues there towards the end. He really kind of lost his ankles. I'm going to tell the truth. It's funny, but it's not funny because he looks like he actually got hurt on that play. But it was funny in the sense that it wasn't even a great move by Jaden Daniels. You could tell Deontay Lawson just lost his balance or footing or whatever and got juked a little bit. No big whoop.
Yeah, I would say based on what I saw Saturday and based on Coach Saban's comments afterwards, I myself am going to assume there will not be Jalen Key and Deontay Lawson in Lexington. I'm assuming that. Now, that we haven't been told that, but I'm expecting to see neither. And it's not ideal because both of those guys are critical run defenders, and we're playing the number one running back in the SEC in Ray Davis. Now, Kentucky, in my opinion, does not run the ball significantly better than some other teams in the league, but Ray Davis is the number one back in the SEC. Kentucky's tough and physical, and then you lose your Mike linebacker and a safety. So it's a little concerning, but hey, Alabama does have dudes. Alabama can simply do like they did against LSU and play Trey Amos at corner, move Terry on to star, Malachi and Caleb can then man the safety spots, that would be fine. And when Deontay's out, you still have Trez Marshall and Jahad Campbell to play inside. So I think Alabama will be fine for this one game without them. But I'm sort of anticipating playing without them. I think those injuries are not season-ending, but probably pretty serious. I think it's a quad strain for Jalen and the ankle for Deontay, who got Jaden Daniels.
So do you think either one of them, maybe both of them, back for Auburn at least?
Well, yeah. And I'm guessing. I think even back for Chattanooga, but I don't know that you rush them back for Chattanooga. But yeah, I don't think they're lost for the rest of the regular season. I'm just not optimistic about this week. But again, I'm guessing based on what it looked like to me. Jalen Key finished the game in street clothes, and Deontay was limping something fierce after the game.
Recruiting from the game, I haven't seen a ton of recruiting updates just yet. I know Alabama did pick up a crystal ball from a basketball recruit in Nas Cunningham. That would be awesome. But I haven't seen anything in the way of football recruiting updates just yet. Have you heard anything?
A little bit. I do think Alabama's got a chance with Elias Williams, the defensive lineman from Florida, came in this weekend. Jay Sean Ross, who's a pass rusher from Oklahoma, and Missouri. I'm sorry. But Jay Sean Ross in particular, I think Alabama's things might start heating up there. I think they really like him. And then after seeing Elias Williams in person, they like him. Solomon Williams may be making a decision fairly soon. That's a strong possibility for Alabama. So recruiting in football is now starting to kind of be a thing. Offered another running back this past week from Georgia, as that position seems to be kind of becoming an important one down the stretch. I would look for a lot of running back and defensive line movement when recruiting heats back up. But the bigger news, basketball, is Nas Cunningham, a national top 50 player. Some people, even though he's national top 50, Luke, some people think he's more like a top 10 in terms of pure talent. Nas Cunningham just visited Alabama, and at BOL, we are very optimistic about Nas Cunningham in Alabama.
Very, very cool. Jimmy, when we come back, we're going to talk about the potential for this game with Kentucky being somewhat of a trap game. And I think it could be. At the same time, I feel oddly confident, but we'll talk about Kentucky here in just a second. I want to tell everybody about LinkedIn, though. You know, look, there are going to be some schools out there using LinkedIn to get a new coach here before too long. You can bet on that. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you got to do is go check out LinkedIn Jobs, then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are, yes, hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and who you'd like to ultimately hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to, helps you find them faster, and helps you find them for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, they're going to apply. So Kentucky's coming up, Jimmy. I'm going to the game. If anybody's going to the game, reach out. Let me know. I hope to see you there. Look, it's not a huge stadium. It's not like Vanderbilt, but it's not a huge stadium. So hopefully we can run into each other. Kentucky looked better against Mississippi State. They'd sort of fallen a little bit after the Georgia thing and after the Missouri thing. But, Georgia and Missouri are pretty good. So I think it's a classic trap game in the sense that it's 11 o'clock, sleepy time. Alabama comes off an emotional game and where the world is patting them on the back right now. And this has got some trap game vibes to it. But, Jimmy, I'm just pretty confident right now. I don't know. I think this team has already been through some trap games. They just didn't know they were trap games at the time. And I think this team has grown up enough to where I'm not all that worried about this contest. In fact, I think the line's a little low.
I feel the exact same way. They're the elements of the trap game are all here, right? You're coming off not only the emotional win, but a couple of emotional wins. The last couple of games have been the Tennessee and LSU, the revenge games from last year. And you get past them, and now people are talking, idiots like myself are talking about Georgia and Atlanta, not talking about Kentucky, not talking about Auburn. We're talking about Georgia and Atlanta. You got to play at 11 a.m. against a physical ball club. I mean, the Kentucky is physical. They will punch you in the mouth, and they beat the heck out of Florida. Now, I know Florida is kind of iffy, right? But Florida's also got some dudes. I mean, they're capable. Kentucky beat the crap out of them. They also have the SEC wins over Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. They're good, and they're most importantly physical. So it does have all the elements of a trap game. Yet, just like Luke, I feel really good about where Alabama's at. I'm excited about this game. I think the kids are going to be excited to play it. There's only 3 games left in the regular season. A lot of the younger players like Milroe and Caden Proctor, they're improving. I think they want to continue that trajectory. I also thought the spread was sort of low, and I like Alabama to win and cover this week, are my early thoughts. I've already got a score in mind. I'm going to still mull on it for a couple of days and tell you all about it during the prediction show later in the week.
We will have that prediction show later in the week, just like we always do. For those who don't know, I mean, this is one of probably the most dominant series Alabama has against anybody that they've played, X amount of times. They've played 41 times. Alabama's 38-2-1. The largest margin of victory for Alabama is 63-3, which was in 2020. The longest win streak is 16 for Alabama. The largest margin of victory for Kentucky is 6-0 in 1922.
1922. So they've beaten us twice, and one of those wins was in 1922.
Yeah, I remember that game because one of our players got thrown out for targeting. So I feel like this past weekend, Dallas Turner was just getting revenge. No, that's terrible.
I thought you were going to say that several of Kentucky's players were suspended in that game for smoking doobies.
No, Alabama was late to the game when their Amish caravan was late getting there. God almighty. Your largest margin of victory ever is 6-0. And we played 20 times.
In 1922.
That is a blowout in 22, though.
This was before black and white TV. This is when TV was just a box with some stick figures. Yeah, it's just black. You had to move around some stick figures with your hands as you listened to it on your talkie.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we're going to talk a lot more about this game as the week goes on. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate you a ton. You don't know how much we appreciate you. And we'll be back tomorrow with more Locked On Bama. I'm going to have Brian passing on at some point. So looking forward to more basketball talk too. People have asked for more basketball talk. So we're going to give it to you. Until next time, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.